What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of August 16th through the 22nd of 2021. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. Well, doing things a little bit differently. Going to do this show live, likely from now on, unless something else changes and I have to record it, but going to do it live. And instead of putting up the weekly sun rising horoscopes individually, I'm going to do the collective in this show and then go into a live sun rising for all 12 signs. So, looking forward to it. Hope to see some of you in the chat. I'm going to get the chat set up so I can see what people are up to while I'm going. I hope you guys are doing well. Big week. Gonna close off the week with a full moon in Aquarius, the second one. It's gonna be with Jupiter. We're gonna see that Sun opposed Jupiter. We're seeing Venus come into Libra. We got Mars and Mercury coming together in Virgo, and Venus, of course, officially now as I record this. Yeah, 9:30 p.m. Yeah, Venus is in Libra. So pretty cool stuff. It's an important week, important time to be alive. So let me get this where I want it. And hopefully I see some people in the chat chilling. All right. Well, I think the big news this week is, of course, the full moon in Aquarius. You know, we had a full moon last month here. It was at 1 degree, pretty much conjunct the Jupiter-Saturn. And now we had this new moon that was in opposition to the midpoint of Jupiter-Saturn. And now we're seeing the other side of the spectrum, which is a full moon in Aquarius with Jupiter. I mean, we are in such Aquarian times. We're on this cusp of Pisces and Aquarius, and I think we're really starting to see like where this future, where this frequency, where these things in our reality, where this life is progressing to, and what those ideals are, and what dots we've connected and figured out, especially within our own emotions, within our personal lives. A lot is kind of coming full circle here. I think that we've had to look at things from a very objective standpoint, emotionally in our lives, and this is where a lot of those dots after this week are gonna be figured out. And they've been in a weird place. Like they've been all over the place, right? So a lot has gone down. We're gonna see what, where that goes as we get there. As I'm doing this recording, Venus has just ingressed into Libra. So Venus left fall position and now it's dignified here in Libra, and that's great because that Venus was stressed out in Virgo and we were all dealing with either relationships or values. Venus squared the nodes when it first came in, almost halfway through, but early on in Virgo, and we had to like really get practical about our finances, about our connections in life, the people. It got picky, and we're going to start to see like all that hyper analyzation of our values here start to play out in different ways, start to play out with other people. Libra is the sign of other people. Venus deals with other people. So it's a big deal. We're going to see this Venus come through here. And of course, Mercury is going to follow behind in the next couple weeks. And we are going to see a Mercury retrograde in Libra. So mixed with that and the Sun and Mars getting ready to come in and make squares to Pluto, we're in for quite the fall. So as we finish up here, and we do next Sunday, right before this week finishes, the Sun will ingress into Virgo, and we'll be done with Leo season. So it is that last final week of Libra or of Leo season, and things are about to get even more real. So hopefully we've all found that heart essence that's been connecting us to what we want, our light, our creativity, our true unique self. And using that energy to be a little picky for the things that don't match with our heart's frequency right now. I think that that's a big part of what we've gone through. We've seen Mars square the nodes. We've seen Mercury. Mercury squared the nodes today, a couple hours earlier in the day today. So talk about like a big faded energy. And as I'm filming this too, the Sun's coming off a yod, still in a yod with Neptune and Pluto. So we're seeing all these faded things start to play out in our life. We're seeing all these big decisions that we have to make from the heart, kind of realizing our own special destiny, and then being analytical about the things that we need to change in our reality to go into that special destiny, to, put that out there for whoever wants to be a part of it, but mainly for yourself. And I think we're all realizing that we can't really just keep going on caring about what everybody else thinks. And I think that that's a big part of this second full moon in Aquarius is we're having to really like find this opposition point between this sun finishing up in Leo and this moon in Aquarius for the second time, realizing that we all are very special and unique and creative in our own right, and then realizing that everybody else is special and unique in their own right too. Especially with Venus here in Libra, we have to try and find that balance, find that beauty between the extremes of people. You know, I look at Libra as the extremes when it comes to dealing with others and trying to find that center, middle, ground of how we can justify and, you know, see the beauty that is all around us and understand that beauty too, so that we can bring it in and have that feeling. So a lot of it is about all these dots we've connected, the practical things that we've had to shift around in our life, and ultimately like going about things from a space of love, from a heart-centered space that can really light up our reality in a way that does bring more purity. This week we're going to see Mars and Mercury come together in Virgo, and I think that that's great, especially after them both coming off squares to the nodes, and Mercury being the dispositor of that north node in Gemini. This is just right back to the punch of like, here we are needing to take this action in life, needing to do something that is changing our reality for the future that we want to go into. We're going to see Mercury here make its quincunx over to Saturn this week. Mars already made it. So there was big decisions that had to be acted upon, that had to be understood. And now we're understanding these even more in a more practical, grounded essence. So what do we do with all this information that we've been presented with? There's past beliefs, there's new information. How do we like find this middle ground in life? How do we, look for new ways forward? Well, it kind of comes back to you just being truly, authentically, 100% yourself. And I think that the more you don't give too much worry or attention or stress, especially as we're getting ready next week to come into Virgo with a Mercury and a Mars here, we don't want to stress ourselves out with just having to get everything perfect. I don't think perfect is a thing right now, especially with what the landscape of reality. We just have to mold it and work it around the best we can so that we can find a fit for ourselves. So it is this hypercritical, hyper-analytical action and understanding that we're trying to use to make changes in life that are going to make the most sense. We have to, remember these squares to the nodes, especially with Mercury being the dispositor of that north node. Like, we want to take the information that's come and make these like kind of really smart choices and practical decisions. And Saturn's even there in quincunx, like, and especially at that quincunx degree, because it's not the first 150, it's the second. And I'm not doing a good job with my math right now, but that would be 180, 190, right? Yeah, 190 degree quincunx. So it's more of a transformation, it's more of a deep dive, and it's about like really being responsible for these big decisions and these big understandings of the information that's presented itself in your life, for I think a lot of us realizing there's a special place, like there's a special thing, like it wasn't like all this just happened for no reason. Like everything that's playing out in the world right now, you're either biting on it and playing along in that world, or you're realizing that you actually came here for the mission and to understand that mission and to make the practical changes for whatever it may be in your life that are showing up right now. Because we're on the cusp, right, of Aquarius and finishing up the age of Pisces. And we're seeing almost accelerated right now this end of Pisces. And it's not over yet. We still have to deal with it. But we're starting to really see that old paradigm kind of like glitch. I know maybe you follow people online that talk about the matrix is glitching. The matrix is glitching right now, and it's a really confusing place when you're trying to just get around and make sense of a big glitch in life. And even the Earth has been glitching in its rotation, if you believe in the globe theory. I don't know. I don't know if it's flat or if it's a globe. I need to get up there and check it out someday. Personally, I don't know. I've seen a lot of good evidence of it being flat. And I've seen, people say some things about the globe and it makes sense. And I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. But apparently the Earth in rotation, if it's a globe, is glitching. Just more synchronicities to this matrix that is glitching. And I think finding these practical solutions and understanding to, instead of living in the glitch of reality, to take action from your understanding and to start to put things into play for where your future into the age of Aquarius is going, to where more things are connected, to where more people in your life are or connecting to more people that are seeing a beautiful reality that we can all go into in one way, shape, or form. As probably tribes, as we're having so much Aquarius energy, Jupiter there, retrograde, Saturn retrograde, it's retrograde city, and this week Uranus goes stationing and retrograde on the 19th, so it's retrotropolis, if you will. And then September we get a Mercury retrograde, and then it's just like, welcome to the Thunderdome. But we're starting to really see where these connections and these tribe energies are forming in our life. Now, whether they're forming in our personal, real life, that could be harder to see, but they're forming all over the place. And I think you can realize that you're connecting with more and more people from all over the place that want to go into a new world. Like it's not like we don't have a choice. And I think that that's the beautiful part of this week is we're realizing more and more that we can make the practical change to change our reality, and we can connect with the right energies that want to bring beauty and balance and love into the physical world. But there's also a reality out there that doesn't want to bring that in. There's a reality out there that wants to keep things in a fear state. And as we finish up this Leo season with the sun making an opposition to Jupiter and then a full moon in Aquarius, we're going to see the big, kind of the big peak out here of where not only your own personal vision can go, but how Jupiter is the dispositor of the South Node, right, in Sagittarius. It's not like just like, oh, these big visions and like I'm going to dream them into reality or, just go explore the world. Like it's more like let's do things right here, right now for our personal life that are going to bring more love in, that are going to kind of put, fear to the side. But we're dealing with big oppositions when it comes to people too, with that aspect, with Jupiter in Aquarius. So we're in a time right now where we're going to start to see progressively from here on out of this, calendar year of 2021, it's just going to get progressively weirder and weirder and weirder. And this Leo season was one of the greatest opportunities I can think of personally to find heart, to find courage within yourself. I mean, we had some big transits. We've had a lot of quincunx energies. We got a yod to the sun as I'm speaking. Like there's the big destiny points here for people to find their love and to move into a reality and to change things around with a powerful understanding with Mars and Mercury coming together of how those changes can be made in this physical landscape and how we can use all the dots and all the visions and all the connections that we do have to make things better in our own personal life. Because until we do the things in our personal life that give us the reality we want to live, we're not going to see the big collective picture change. Like we have to remember that the collective is it vibrates out from what every individual does. So the only way to change a collective narrative is for every individual, not every, but a majority of individuals to change their own way of thinking. And I think that this Virgo season is going to be extremely helpful for that because we're going to be so hypercritical. And we're seeing that with Mercury here now. Now I look at Virgo too in a way like before a wedding, like the bride and the groom are getting ready and they want to look all perfect. It's the special day, like everything's got to be right, laid out perfectly. But something always goes wrong. And then it's stress. And then it's like this day you've been waiting for your whole life, but oh my gosh, there's something. Is this going to work out? Are we going to have enough time for these photos? So we don't want to stress ourselves out on how perfect things need to look because we can get lost in all these big, wild Aquarian things when it comes to society and people in general. So we're having to kind of like remember to focus on the changes we can make as individuals to see where things are going, to be very aware and very objective, but it's disconnected in Aquarius, and especially with a full moon there. Like, we need to disconnect from our own subjective feelings and come into an objective, higher viewpoint so that we can make smart decisions here. Especially with Mercury and Virgo and with Mars, there's smart decisions that can be acted on that can give us like a really a really solid framework. And it's just kind of like being willing to do things a little bit differently. I don't think the old world is going to, like, especially if you're not following that narrative, like, you can already see it out there, right? Like, they're trying to make domestic terrorism a thing if you don't, believe in the CV-19 narrative. And they're linking that to 9/11. You can't even question things without being like, that's a red flag, right? Like, we're in such a time with the North Node in Gemini where information and questions are so important, but yet that South Node in Sag is so powerful that you can't even go against the narrative or the question that's going, or the media standpoint of anything. And if you do question or think for yourself, terrorists somehow, it blows my mind. I can't even believe I saw that article. And it's just, it's kind of stuff we're coming into. So on the super bright side, though, kind of like leaving that narrative behind and coming back to the individual standpoint, is we're going to see Mercury and Mars trine Uranus. So we've been seeing a ton of hard aspects to Uranus, a lot of them. Saturn in square, we're going to see the third Saturn square. In October, we're going to see the Helio square between Saturn and Uranus for the first time. We're going to see a lot go on in October. October 19th is my apocalypse day. If you want to know, circle that on your calendar. I'll talk about it more as we get there, but anyways, these Uranus trines are about to be extremely enlightening. And Uranus is going to go retrograde this week on Friday, the 19th. So this retrograde Uranus is kind of, in a way, it's halting our sort of forward, higher mind thinking and having us come back to really like look objectively at this physical landscape, at money, Uranus and Taurus, at values, at our own personal capacity to create, to manifest, to look at ourselves as unique, powerful, confident individuals that can make big, powerful, unique changes in our world right now. Which is good because I think, even though we have so many retrograde planets, right? Like, you go through the list. Chiron went retrograde last, then it was Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. On the bright side, Pluto's getting ready to station and come direct here soon. But yeah, it's retrograde city starting this week. So we're going to have to really not lose track of our individuality, but I think break away even more. Really get into, honestly, a little bit of that rebellious energy within us so that we can stand up for our own personal individuated values. And hopefully like build connections with people stronger that want to go into a better, more beautiful world. Taurus is the Garden of Eden. It's beautiful. It's Earth. Earth is a beautiful place. And I think a lot of us can get so distracted from the outer noise that, I look outside all the time and I'm like, wow, this is a really magical place. It's beautiful. There's beauty everywhere. And yeah, I live in a beautiful place. Like, I live in the woods in California. And it's gorgeous, and there's so much beauty everywhere. But no matter where you live, you can find this natural physical beauty and really connect to it. And I think in a way we got to kind of use this time to still be aware of what's going on in the world, but to remember to come back into what we find that is beautiful, what lights us up, what makes us feel unique and strong and sturdy and together. And I think that can be extremely like a positive note this week. Uranus retrograde isn't necessarily a bad thing. It happens every year, of course. It's just, we have to go like look at ourselves as that unique individual, and instead of like looking so much at all these big, you know, just connecting everything, which Uranus is, of course, the ruler of Aquarius, where we're going to have a full moon, Saturn's there, Jupiter's there. Like, I think we have to kind of go back inside and remember to look at the physical landscape of the world that we're seeing and be able to make those radical changes to have the better. And that's what this Mars and Mercury trine that Uranus are going to help us with. They're going to help us do these kind of wild things, but to look at it more from an individuated place, to look at it more objective, to look at it more practical, and really, especially with Mars and Mercury in mutable Earth at the same time as, you know, Uranus, which is in fixed Earth in Taurus, but Uranus is, you know, not really fixed, right? Even if you look at Aquarius, like, it's not really that fixed. Like, Uranus wants to fix things. Uranus is fixated on, or no, Aquarius is fixated on fixing things. Like, it'll kind of like disconnect and be like, that's not futuristic. That's not going into the big picture that I want to go into. I'm going to make it better and then show it to everybody and fixate on that. So in a way, we have to kind of use this energy to, because it's harmonious, right, with a trine. Like, they're looking at each other. They're both in Earth. Like, we have to be able to practically and surgically, even with Mars here, like cut through our reality and find that different, that unique way for ourselves. Like I said, the old world is going to start to change and change and change and change. And depending on if you want to get something put in your arm or not, you might not be able to participate in that world. Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. There can be a lot of positives that come from that. It's not like everybody wants to get that thing. You know, Joe Biden, of course, said 350 million Americans have gotten it. But, you know, I think if you know anything or did any research on that one, you saw that, well, there's only what, about 331 million Americans. So I don't know where that number came from, but we're going to have to tribe up. We're going to have to do things the new way and look in these directions that are going to bring that. So I think that this week is going to show us how to inwardly be hypercritical about the reality that we want to live in. And if we're willing to still give up a part of what our soul wants to truly be or truly do for a paradigm that, does it really resonate any longer? It could. I mean, I'm not trying to judge anybody, like, at all. Like, if it resonates, it resonates. Like, I think that world's still going to be a thing. I don't think it's just going to crumble yet. Like, I think it might crumble eventually, but, you know, not yet. Although we're seeing it glitch more and more, like I've been saying, like there's a glitch. This week could be like the week of the glitch. I think that glitch can be positive for completely unreal realizations that you can actually make real. Out of this world insights that can come through that will give you the practical understanding, the analytical, the precise understandings that give you that movement and that action with Mars to really change and like mold things into your favor for what you want. And relationships are going to come up big. They already have. But we're going to see Venus make really good aspects to the nodes here in Libra this week. It's going to trine over to the North Node. So that's great. It's going to sextile the South Node too. It's going to sextile Juno, which is with the South Node. So again, we're at this place with relationships and other people in our life where we're just like, wow, are we really going to go into that old story of what we maybe thought in the old world was this divine union or this like really solid thing? But we're going to see information because Libra's air, right? So it's smarter. It's a smarter Venus too. Like it's not that like Venus is dumb, but it's going to think things about like what's going to bring the equality. What are the choices? There's a lot of choices. There's a lot of information, but we still have to make the choice that's going to bring us the most beauty and it's going to make things beautiful. And I think we're in a time where we can do that. And, you know, not this week, but next week, we're going to see Venus trine Saturn. And that's a great aspect because, you know, after going through all this with Venus square the nodes, Venus coming out of Virgo, like coming into next week with a Venus trine Saturn, I mean, that's going to give us like some solid, foundation here of what the decisions we made were going to look like, or if they're built for the long term, if they have, you know, that that justification that your soul's looking for. So this week, we're going to see a lot come up when it comes to people, what side people want to be on, what world they want to live in, what reality they want to take part in. And I think that, the best thing we can do is be understanding, to not be hypercritical in a sense that we're just discounting another person and their experience on earth, because we're all meant to live a different experience. So there is no right or wrong way to live life, from a bigger perspective. So for the ones that want to go into a different world, this is where we make big changes to do so. And I think Uranus gives us this lightning bolt of insight, just like a channeled download in a really like powerful way that we can use, but we need to use it. Trines, sometimes we can let those slip by. If something shows up, that's just trying to show you magic in life and trying to show you that like you can make your reality the way you want it by utilizing that magic, but not by just going out into dreamland, but by being, present and here about it and doing something about it. We can see like some pretty amazing things take place. And I think in our personal life. So I think we're coming out of kind of a shitstorm, to be honest. These last couple of weeks have been intense for most people, I would say, especially people who are energetically sensitive. Like, it's been a trip. And this is a week where the sun's finishing up here in Leo, and I mean, we're taking our own sense of self and courage to the next level, and our own heart here. And this is where we can really put it out there, especially as we come into Sunday and we get that, sun coming into 0 Virgo late Sunday evening. It's going to be with Regulus, the heart of the lion. Like, this is giving us a really regal sense of our own special destiny, our own special creative authority of self. And with that full moon, that's a powerful one. It's going to be with Jupiter. This is the full moon, I think, where all the objective views come into play, and you start to really, you can really take a look from a smarter place, because we're going to realize that we have to release some emotion right now. We're going to have to, like, because Aquarius, we got to remember that, I have an Aquarius moon, of course. Like, there's not much or any emotion in Aquarius. It's just not an emotional sign. It's Saturn, it's Uranus. We have to learn to disconnect from emotions, not to not feel them, but to be smart and to check in with the heart before we just get emotional about something that shows up in our life, or a relationship that, we're looking at and trying to find balance on. It's like, let's connect and think and figure it out. And if we have to kind of take a step away this week, it might be a good week to do that, because sometimes just that Aquarius energy, if you disconnect and step into your own world, you can figure out and connect everything. And I think that in our own personal life, we're going to be realizing that over the last month, as we come in from the first full moon in Aquarius into the second full moon in Aquarius, we really did have to detach a little bit. And it might not have felt like it. We could have been very emotionally charged. There was a lot of heavy aspects going on. But the times that we did disconnect a little bit, we got the insight. We saw into the future. We channeled into the Akashic records to find out what is going to bring us the security that we need within ourselves. Hold on one second. Alarm went off. That we had to find for ourselves. The moon's our personal life. So we're all having to deal with what we want to connect to and what we want to disconnect from. There's an old world. There's the age of Pisces. We're on the cusp. There's the age of Aquarius. There's new, innovative ways to do every single thing in our life. And we're realizing that we can make these changes now more than ever, because the old world is presenting us with a lot of good reasons, I think, whatever. This isn't even about getting the jab or not. just being a human and realizing that even if you got it, there's, your brothers and your sisters that didn't because maybe they just maybe they just think that there's not enough research out yet. There's so many different areas of reasons why other than just being a right-wing Trumper extremist, which is the narrative, right? If you don't want to get it, you're an extremist. Like there's so many other reasons. And even if you do get it, like those people, like I saw in Italy, there were people in Italy burning their passport, their card, because the people that didn't get it, their brothers and sisters, are about to be mistreated and not being able to live a life, a somewhat comfortable one. They're not going to have these things that people can do or that we've always been able to do. So you know what they did? They gathered up and they burned them. And like that actually brought a tear to my eye. I'm not going to lie, like that hit me like deep because like that's the kind of shit like that gets me just fired up in like the best of ways. It wasn't like a tear of sad. I mean, that was like the most like happiest tear that has ever come into my eye because it gave me so much hope. And Aquarius can be about hope and hope and a way forward for everybody. So the point of even saying that story was whether you got these things or not, or believe in that or not, like, are we really going to sit back in some way, shape, or form and let just the other side, whatever it may be, just, Uranus is where it was at when Hitler was starting up concentration camps and major segregation. And we're starting to see that, right? New York already started, can't go into restaurants, can't go into this, can't go into that. I mean, that's going to keep spreading, but I mean, and I think that, there's something about, like I said before, that old world changing, and there are going to be tribes and people, even if that doesn't, if people don't rise up, because I think a lot of people, from what I've seen, they want, the people that don't believe in that to suffer, so is what it is. Everybody, whether they do or not, I've seen some of that online. I don't think that's the common thing, but it's out there. We're going to see different ways. We're going to see where that tribe can show up in our life. And this full moon is a good time to realize like where you want to connect your energy to, where do you want to connect your emotions to, and realize that whatever it is that isn't full on connected, full circuit, doesn't have to be a thing anymore. You don't have to give that your energy because you're going to find people that, because it is about people, that want to go into a new world too. And we're going to change this and figure some way out together. And that's probably the most positive part about this week with the aspects to Uranus and a full moon in Aquarius is we're going to see a lot of the tribe show up. We're going to see a lot of the people that want to go into the innovation. And it's up to us as individuals in our own life to be aware enough of our own individual needs and wants and desires of where we're going or what reality we're choosing to shift and mold, and to see the ones that want to go into a similar one and to not discredit people that want to go into another one, but realize that you don't have to give them your energy. You don't have to do anything that doesn't match with your heart. As this sun finishes out in Leo, the best thing that we can do here is really understand our own creative potential and our own inner light and the courage to illuminate that for the personal life that we want to live. And to remember that love is really the ultimate medicine in life. It is the ultimate victory when you find love of self, whatever love is, right? Because love is not a physical thing. It's a frequency. It's a belief, if you will. You could call love a belief. But if you have that belief and you have that connection to what the ultimate love is, right, which would be God, that you're going to find your unique way, your unique tribe that's going to match with your own special destiny, your own special frequency, and show you how to open up and illuminate that for what's going to give you the best in life, for your own personal needs and wants. And that's going to wrap up my little summary here, and then I'm going to go into doing the weeklies. I might take a look at the chat real quick. There's some people in here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you like this. I'm gonna start doing more and more live streams. So if you enjoy these, stick around on the channel. I have a couple shows in mind. Like one of them is kind of like a really interactive show with you guys, where if you're willing or want to, give me your chart information, and I'll pull it up and hit you with like a 5-10 minute, just what I see, what would be most important, what just comes up and shows itself first. Not like going through all your placements, but what would be important to look at now. So that's for people, that want to have their stuff out there. I don't have to share the chart, but I can if you want. But if you want my opinion, and of course I'm not gonna like say anything. It's public. I don't want to air anything like crazy out there, but just something important that would be something that people might like. So I'm gonna do that for donation. That's also another thing. It doesn't have to be anything special, but just a little donation. And then even for the people that donate, if you want more information, I think I'm gonna give those people that donate like a discount off a full reading. So that's a show I want to do. I was also thinking of another show that I would kind of just be a hangout, and basically just me maybe talking, hanging out, chatting, but also showing you what I'm researching. You pulling up my computer screen, the iPad, looking at transits and looking at like history that I'm checking out, and kind of like seeing what could come based off past events, right? It's a good way to use evolutionary astrology, like where planets were, especially the outer planets, even Saturn and Jupiter, of course, and when they're coming and what's coming. And I got some cool stuff that I've been doing with that. So hopefully that's another show people might enjoy. But I'm going to hop on here and do more of that. So I hope you enjoy that. So for now, let's jump into some sun signs. Whoops. That was weird. All right. So, of course, we'll start off with the Aries. All right, Aries. Well, I think this is a pretty awesome week for Aries, to be honest. You're having that sun finish up here in your 5th house. And this is like putting the final stamp on your individual creativity, on your light, your love, what brings you happiness in life, and what does not bring you happiness. So there's been a big light shined on what lights you up, what brings you enjoyment, or even some sort of, maybe pleasure in your life, and what doesn't. And here's this point where it's like this final stamp with a full moon in your 11th house of like, do you really want to connect to people, or do you really want to connect to society that doesn't help light you up, that doesn't show you a way forward, that's a way of love that matches with your own heart's frequency? And I think the opposition to Jupiter with the sun too is like, yeah, there's a lot of energy of people in your life right now, and of what society's doing. And it's weird with Aquarius too, and in the 11th house. And it's trying to like find the middle ground between knowing yourself, knowing what lights you up, knowing what brings you love, and having the wisdom, even with the opposition to Jupiter, to not just to do anything, but to do what your heart wants, and to believe in yourself, and also to have some belief in people too, because I think it can be hard to have faith right now. And faith is a funny thing with the South Node in Sagittarius in your 9th house, and with Jupiter in your 11th house. Like, faith, belief isn't going to get us super far. So, we got to bring something to a middle ground, have faith in people, but still be objective about what's going on, and making, I would say, a smart decision for what's going to bring you the best. Venus is coming into your 7th house, so of course you're dealing with relationships. Like, and it doesn't have to be relationships, but it's friendships, it's other people, it's extremes, but it could be absolutely beautiful. You could be really finding tribe energy here, especially with Venus getting ready by the end of the week to come onto that trine to Saturn. Like, you're kind of finishing the week with like, I think, a really solid understanding of what's going to bring you beauty and value in life, and who those people are going to be. And we start off the week with Mercury actually in quincunx to that Saturn. So again, it's like big mental decisions about the reality that you want to have, especially as we're about to see the sun come into your sixth house. Like, you don't want to stress out about reality here, but you want to be smart and practical about it and make these actions that are going to make sense of how you're going to change things. And Mars is your chart ruler, and it's going to, make that trine over to Uranus by next weekend. And Mercury's going to trine Uranus. So I think there's a ton of practical insight that's going to come through. And with Uranus going retrograde in your second house, I mean, this is you finding like new ways to make money, like doing things outside the ordinary with finances, doing things outside the ordinary for your own self-confidence and your own self-worth. And I think by taking action for those things and shifting things right now in your world for what's going to give you the most love, what's going to give you the most enjoyment, and really like not falling for just the belief of what everybody needs to do with Jupiter and the South Node and Saturn in Aquarius, this belief of what society needs to look like, but realizing that you can make your reality what you want it from your own unique perspective and still find and see beauty in other people and still find some sense of balance and love. Because yes, there's an objectiveness here. Yes, that full moon's in your 11th house, and you might have to release some sort of, emotional sense of security about people that have been in your life that don't match up anymore with where you're going. Or you're seeing, who really is part of the tribe and who really is part of that energy that wants to make some really, really powerful magical things happen. We're going to see Chiron get quincunxed from Mars and Mercury. Chiron, of course, in your first house here. Mars, your chart ruler, in your sixth. I mean, this can be definitely kind of stressful, thinking that you don't have what it takes maybe, or that you don't, have the resources to be who you want to be, or that you have to make changes that are just like weird, and people are going to, especially with the Aquarius energy in your 11th house and Venus in your 7th, like, oh, people will judge me if I do this in my reality. Like, so what? So what? You're in an opposition with people right now between your own creative expression and dealing with the collective. And is that really going to stop you from the biggest changes that you can make that are going to light you up and bring you the most happiness in life? I don't think so. They're not. So let's see what the card is for Aries. Yeah, you got the six of coins. Why do I keep doing that? I never push that button, and here I am pushing that button. Six of coins upright. Yeah, I mean, I think that, especially with Venus coming into your 7th house, like, you're really seeing like how things are finding balance between what you really want to feel good, between what you want from other people. It's kind of all coming to this point of like, you have stuff to give. You have energy to give. You have love to give, but you don't have to give or connect if you're not getting it back in some way, shape, or form. Like, it's equal exchange. So I think this is a big week of looking at other people in life and realizing, like, are you getting back what you're putting in? Or are you just give, give, give? Or are they just take, take, take? And ultimately finding that level ground between people is going to be a big part of this week, and realizing that you have, this insight and this capacity to make really great changes happen, but not if you're worried about what everybody else is going to think about your choices that come from your heart. All right, Taurus. All right, Taurus. Well, I'm going to have that sun finishing up in your 4th house. So you're at this place of like getting this root, area of your life, this home life, or these emotional, foundation. You're getting them pretty locked down. You've had a lot come through there. The sun's the last one to finish up. So it's like this final stamp on like what's really going to bring you the security in life that you're looking for, and what emotions are, taking you in the direction that you can really build off of that foundation. We're seeing Mars and Mercury meet up in your 5th house. I think that you want to be creative right now. Like, you want to express yourself and show how awesome you are and show all these great things that you've come up with, and show all, it's really putting your creative, visions and based off that foundation into show it. Be, put the creativity out there, express it, realize it. I think you're about to come into a really like solid time here, especially next week in Virgo season of really like just doing things that light up your heart and having that foundation to move forward from that. We're going to see your ruling planet, of course, go into its other home sign of Libra in your sixth house. So, it's not like Venus wants to be in your sixth house here. I think you're realizing that to find the beauty that you're looking for, you really do have to put in a little bit of work. Like you have to shift and mold things. If you sit back and just look for other people to show up and do it in your life, it's probably not going to make, you're coming into a you got to do it time. If you want to create it, if you want to build it, build it. And, try not to get stressed out. Like if people in your life with Venus here, whether it's relationships or other people, if they're trying to make changes for you that you don't want to do, that don't match up with sort of like where your heart really wants to take you or your understanding of what you want to create in your life, that can be stressful, but you got to kind of like figure out ways to not let that get to you or not feel just like your reality can't be even more beautiful because it always can be. But it's like you have to be willing to put that work in and create it for yourself. And I think that this is a great week of realizing that you can create that beauty by shifting and molding things. In your reality, Venus is also going to make good aspects to the nodes in your second house. So I think right now, when it comes to your own capacity to build and make things come to life and manifest and find confidence right now, like this is a great week for that. But it's the changes you have to make. And like realizing you have your foundation, you know what is going to bring you the comfort you're looking for, but you also have to express exactly what that is. And with the aspects to Uranus in your first house and Uranus going retrograde in your first house, I think you're realizing that you really have to do things your own way. Like it's not going to just, like I said, you can't just expect everybody to do it for you right now. Like this is you finding your own unique sense of purpose and self and the capacity to build it and create it and to not doubt it or think that, you're not good enough or it's just going to be too much work or too stressed out, but to really own up to these things that you want. Because if you're willing to put in that work and shift things around, it's not going to be as stressful as it will be fulfilling. And with this full moon energy and Jupiter opposite the sun in your 10th house, this is a big sort of like look at the legacy in life or your public image or the big things that you want to climb to the top of, and realizing that, there's a lot going on in society. There's a lot going on with, people in this world and what people might see of you, or this image that you have to others, but really finding your place within yourself and illuminating from that so that you can make big visions come to life. And that you can see the bigger picture of where these things can go for yourself. So I think that, this is like a stamp week and a stamp full moon of realizing that you can accomplish anything you want if you're willing to put that extra work in or make the changes necessary. We finish off the week with Venus trine Saturn, and Saturn's in your 10th. Like that work that you put in and that solid foundation that you have is gonna take you to the next level. It's gonna take you farther and higher. But you have to release any sense of doubt or guilt, emotionally, that you can't make the big ideals with the moon Jupiter come together. Because you definitely can. But I think it's realizing that it's not about what the public sees as much as what you see in yourself this week. So the more power you see within yourself, the more you see that you can take the next level higher, the more you're going to be able to express and really own up to that and get it. And Mars and Mercury are going to quincunx over to Chiron in your 12th. So, you could be feeling maybe at some point like a strange weirdness of like, whoa, like, does the universe even have my back? It's not showing up in the outer world right now like I want it to. But that's because right now you got to, surrender a little bit, but not lose faith and be able to do the things that are showing up in your life that give you that special power and that special destiny of the things that you can create by putting in a little bit of extra work, by being critical about the reality that you want to have. And ultimately, I think a lot of this week for you is about realizing that you have so much capacity to create a world that you want, as long as you feel secure within yourself and know that you're worth it. Because if you know you're worth it, of course you're a Taurus, right? If you believe you're worth it and have that confidence and stability, you can manifest the world. And this full moon in your 10th house is going to show you where and how you can emotionally get there if you're willing to make a change. Card for the Tauruses is the Star card in reverse. It's almost like, I guess I could just leave this screen up. It's almost like you're a little scared to go into the new story because you're like, wow, like I just maybe got comfortable in the old one. And now there's going to be some crazy change. Well, yeah, there is, but it's a divine change and it's coming from a higher place and it's trying to really like light your path. But if you're not going to be vulnerable to where that's going and shift things around, then, you know, what, are you just going to go back into a tower moment? Like, don't go that way. I think you have a bunch of things lining up right now that are trying to make some of the biggest things happen. And they're big decisions that are coming to you right now of like, what do you want? Are you going to follow your heart and make changes in your reality for that? Are you going to be the unique individual that you are and use that insight and channel that to go on this, you know, to be vulnerable about where things are going to go? Or, you know, not take that new journey for what it is with the wisdom, right? Because the Star card's kind of like the Fool, but it's the Fool that has the wisdom and connected to source, and you know, it's very guided. It's not just like that kid energy that's just like, oh, I'm just gonna go and I don't know why. Like, I think you know why, and you're seeing that there's a big mission here for you, but you have to be willing to dedicate to that. And it kind of comes through being able to surrender to the mission and make the changes necessary for whatever that calling is for you. Go on to Gemini now. All right, Gemini. Well, that sun's going to be finishing up in your 3rd house. So this has been a good time for you. I mean, this is definitely like, especially after that solar eclipse energy that you had in your 1st house, it's like, I think the understanding of a lot of that big message, and a Mercury, your ruling planet, Cazimi with that, like there was a lot going on. The North Node in your 1st house. I think this is like this first big understanding of where things are finally starting to go. And I think that that's so powerful, and you want to use that to the best of your, you know, ability to have that understanding and to not think you're crazy, but like to be like, yep, these facts showed up. This is what I need to do in the here and the now that makes the most sense for what I need and what I want. You know, we are going to see your ruling planet Mercury, you know, with Mars. So Mars is in your 4th house. I think this is where you have to realize that you can keep digging yourself a hole with Mars in your 4th house. You can keep digging yourself deeper into feeling like, I don't know, like you just, like what happened? Like where are things going? But you can shift that perspective and find that powerful understanding of how you're feeling, of your foundation that you've come into and what makes the most sense. And it's going to make really good aspects to Uranus in your 12th. Like, I think that Spirit is guiding you very powerfully, especially with Uranus going retrograde in your 12th house. This is like really coming back into yourself and channeling from the unseen, from the unknown, and using all of that to find these practical ways forward and to have this understanding and this knowing that if you have the base and that you're willing to act on things that make you feel good, and to not just let things that don't make you feel good rip you down, but to have that understanding, like if this doesn't make you feel good, peace. So there's like good insight coming around that's like, you don't have to be in a hole any longer. You can really progress out of that. You can really find a lot of positivity. And I think it's positivity through, you know, the surrender to whatever source is trying to have you go in that direction of. Like, it could show up in a bunch of different ways with Uranus in the 12th. But I think ultimately it's going to, get you out of whatever hole you might have felt like you've been in. Because I know Geminis have gone through a lot. Like that solar eclipse rocked a lot of us, but it really hit Geminis. Because that Mercury Cazimi during that was no joke. And that was probably the most intense Mercury retrograde we've ever felt. And that was your ruling planet in your sign. That was intense. So I feel for you. I feel for Gemini because I know they've gone through a ton. And I think this is where they are starting to, instead of digging a hole from that, this is where they start digging back out of the hole and finding that, confidence mentally as well as emotionally to really see where this sort of like unpredictable life is taking you. So I think that's very positive. Venus comes into your fifth house. I mean, if you want to feel anything right now, it's love. If you want anything, it's love. So, find people that want to give you the love. If people don't want to give you the love, are they really worth your emotional, anger with Mars in the fourth house? Like, get with people right now and around energy that wants to give you the acknowledgement you deserve. And I think also, acknowledge yourself. Give yourself the love you deserve. And do the things in life that bring love out, that make you happy, that put a smile on your face. Like, you don't have to keep digging deeper. So I think this is a big week for Gemini to realize it's not about digging yourself deeper. It's about digging yourself out with with love, right? Like, I'm going to do what makes me feel good. I'm going to do what makes me feel happy. I'm not going to hang around with people that don't make me happy any longer. And Venus is going to make good aspects to those nodes in your first house and in your seventh. So, do you want to identify with your creative heart, or do you want to identify with what other people are, telling you need to do or how you need to feel? No, you don't. You want to have a great time and enjoy your life, and this is a good week for that to come up. We are going to see, of course, those energies with Mercury and Mars make quincunxes to Chiron, which is in your 11th house. So there's more people stuff here. Like, you don't want, to care too much about what society thinks, because actually, like, you got one of the biggest upgrades of any sign recently. So it's like you actually have the unique vision. You have sort of the upper hand. If you're willing to realize it and channel that energy, you can, show the world a way to go, and how maybe how you got out of the hole, you can show the people how to get out of the hole. So, not, you don't want people to have you feel wounded. I think you want to, find that base and that strength inside of yourself and realize that you probably know a better way forward than most right now because you've come to that understanding. And with Jupiter in your ninth and a full moon in your ninth, posing that moon or that sun in your third house, this is all about realizing there's so much out there. There's so much that you can emotionally pursue. You can go after anything as long as your heart's in it. And if your heart isn't in it, I mean, you could maybe still go after it too. Or if your emotions aren't in it. But I think you're trying to expand. And I think there's a lot of ideals and there's a lot of big things that you can bring into your personal life right now. So it's not like just going out into the void here. I think that you're getting a lot of good information from your creative, right brain and from the higher energies in life. But it's realizing that you can bring that into your environment. You can make these smart decisions that are going to get you to a place of ultimate comfort within yourself that are going to bring a lot of power and authority out there for you. And, this is about really connecting to what makes, one, you happy, but two, what makes you feel like you're connected to the right belief system for you that does make the most sense. And I think you're, having this opposition with the world right now of like, am I crazy for having a belief right now, for my understanding of what's going on? And you're not. So it's like, stop letting society or other people in your life make you feel less than. This is the week where you find a lot of power and authority for your own emotional state and for the big things that you want to make happen, and to realize that as long as you have love right now, you can change everything. You can make your wildest dreams start to come true. And even with Saturn in your ninth house, like, it could feel like it's work, bringing these big visions into reality, or, going and expanding on the things that you've seen, but keep pursuing them. And Venus finishing off the week with a trine to that Saturn is nice because it's in your fifth house and your ninth house. So these houses are like, one, they want to be free, they want to express themselves, and they want to grow. So I think the more you're doing the things that bring you love, beauty, and happiness in life, the more you're going to grow. And ultimately, this is about disconnecting from beliefs that do not serve your heart and that do not make sense to all the things that you've learned over the last 3 months, because those things have been so important to your mission and to the great insight that you can bring to people from that. Yeah, the Eight of Swords. I mean, I think this is actually where Geminis finally like take the blindfold off and realize that, they could just wiggle a little and get out of those ropes too. So this is like getting out of that mental state of feeling like you're stuck, or, that you can't go out and make dreams happen or explore new things, or you can't change your physical landscape or your even, just your immediate world. Like this is like the aha moment week where everything becomes connected, and I think that you start believing in yourself again. And it's that belief in yourself that's going to get through any oppositions that deal with people in your life. And it's going to link you up with people that want to go build that security with you. So this is unbinding yourself. It's just like a little tweak in the mind that I think that Uranus trine Mercury is going to help you with. Of like really understanding your root needs and wants right now and not settling for less. Or thinking that you can't get to those things, because there's always a way. And that's going to show up for you this week. All right, Cancer. Well, Cancer, you're going to have, of course, a full moon in your 8th house with Jupiter. Sun's going to be finishing up in your 2nd house. So a lot of this is about realizing your own capacity, your own self-worth, your own value, and really like that soul capital aspect of life. So not only is it these deep emotional needs and wants in that 8th house with the moon, but it's the physical stuff too. So it's realizing that there's changes you have to make, of letting go of emotions, disconnecting from emotions that aren't serving you any longer, that you've graduated from, that don't have that deeper essence that you're looking for, or even beliefs with Jupiter there in opposition to the sun. Like you're seeing like where you might have believed things can merge or come together in life, but were they just an obsession? Were they just a dream? Were they just a vision? Or were they grounded and real and secure and stable? So kind of finding this middle ground, and I think learning to disconnect, especially with the moon being your ruling planet, it's a big one for you. You actually have to disconnect from your emotions on the deepest of levels so that you can look at things from a centered midpoint perspective of your own deep needs and wants, but not just the emotion, but the physical needs and wants, and realizing that you can manifest, that you can bring that into your life, into your physical life, if you're willing to. It could be cut ties with something. Like the 8th house is endings and beginnings. So this full moon could be like this final stamp of an emotional like ending and moving on to the new story. And especially at 29 degrees, like that is like rising up like the Phoenix degree. So I think whatever if you're realizing a deeper want or need, or if something's being taken by the universe, like it's going to help you rise up emotionally and find a deeper security. But you just have to realize that like you don't have full control in the 8th house. Like, yeah, it can show you where you have power, but it can also show you where you're powerless, and have powerlessness. But that sun's trying to show you that you have a lot of power if you're willing to do these physical things and believe in yourself and have that confidence and have that self-love and that capacity to still make a change, but hold on to what your core values are, Like not giving up just everything, but giving up the stuff that's no longer giving you the return on investment that you would be looking for. So I think you're dealing with people, of course, with the eighth house too, and what you maybe you believed about people, and if they're, you know, still showing up, if it's worth the emotional investment or not. And I think that, you know, you have a choice, and that choice is like, are you going to choose your value or the value of someone else? Like, what's more important right now? It's up to you to decide. Venus is going to come into your fourth house, which is not a bad place for Venus at all. It's going to be trying to find its own comfort and its own emotional, you know, grounded sort of home. So, what makes you feel the most at home within yourself? What makes you feel the most here, the most planted? And how do you bring that in? You know, maybe it's by taking some rest. Maybe it's by like not overworking. You know, Venus in the fourth doesn't necessarily want to go out to work all the time. So, and you also have the south node in your sixth house. So, in a way, really, with Venus making a good trine over that north node in your 12th, a lot of this week comes down to a surrender for you, especially with a full moon in your eighth house. I think you have to surrender to something without, and it's probably something you've been obsessed with, I'll be honest. So whatever you've been obsessed with, this is a good time to, especially if that obsession isn't giving you the solidness that you want, that return on investment. Like if you're obsessed with something and it's giving back, that's different. But this I feel like is something that's not paying out. And you need to surrender and learn to let that go. And if you let that go, you're going to find more emotional and even physical comfort within yourself than, yeah, than if not. So it's like, okay, keep holding on, keep holding on. But if you know, and you can avoid like a big emotional, you know, sense of crisis even with a full moon in your eighth house, I'll be honest. And it's the second one. So I know this has been, you know, kind of a rough one, and Jupiter's back in your eighth. So you're definitely feeling like there's just, it can feel like the world's kind of crashing down at times. But I think it's also helping you find out a deep sense of like what that deep well within you can bring out and what you really have the capacity to create if you believe in yourself and have that confidence in yourself. And also, you know, I think it's learning good boundaries too in the eighth house. Who to trust and who not to trust. So I think that that's a positive too. But ultimately, trusting in the divine right now would be the biggest benefit to bringing you a sense of physical and emotional comfort. Mars and Mercury are going to come together in your third house. I mean, this is pretty solid here for your mind. Like, you're going to be very sharp when it comes to taking the information that's showing up in your life and making a quick decision that's going to, you know, it's common sense, it's quick, it's street smart stuff. So how do you use that street smart energy to, you know, make changes? It's also going to make a trine over to Uranus in your 11th house. So I would say that, and with Uranus going retrograde in your 11th house, like, well, you're definitely looking at society and like what everybody else is doing, but you're also looking at like your own individual nature here and how you can connect the dots in your own personal life, but more so in like really like your community or like your home life. Like this is really about like what's right in front of you. So learning to kind of disconnect and shut the switch off from the 11th house and use all that insight and information that you've already gathered to come back into what's, you know, what's factual and what's making the most sense to bring you the comfort and security you want without just letting other people dictate what that security is. And I think that plays off the full moon really well for you as well. And we're going to see that quincunx from Mars and Mercury to Chiron in your 10th house. So I think that this is big decisions that you really have to understand and act upon. And it's likely like putting yourself out there, you know, really, really showing off what you've learned, what you've gathered, what you want in life. And, you know, not being fearful of a full moon, you know, Jupiter, Saturn in your 8th house, like really saying no fear to what's showing up with people and having that confidence to put out your truth, to express your truth. What do you really want? What are your goals? What are your ambitions? Who cares what anybody else thinks? Like, you don't have to feel weird about whatever you've come to realize. and whatever, spirit's coming and taking, you in that direction of, and like following that. So, yeah. Card for the Cancers. Five of Swords reversed. Yeah, that's dope. I feel like this is where you're getting out of, a weird conflicted situation. Like whatever has been showing up that isn't giving you the return on investment that you want, like you have that all figured out now, and it's like you get to make a choice. Like, do you want to keep playing into the conflict? Do you want to keep playing into the things that just makes it feel like there's no win for yourself or another person? Or are you ready to really like make a big decision to speak up for yourself and to put your truth out there for what that capacity is and what your worth is, instead of letting other people in life right now kind of dictate that or make you feel, I don't know, I almost feel like I want to say like less than, and you're not. This is where you're really finding, a lot of inner strength, mental strength, but also inner like confidence and self-worth. And being able to disconnect from what people are saying or doing if it doesn't bring you value. So I like that card for you. Let's jump over to the Leos. Hold on one second. All right. Boop. Leo, happy birthday, Leos. It is your final week of the birthday season for the Leos, so definitely happy birthday, and hope you had a great birthday month. We're gonna see the sun finishing up in your first house of fun, and it's gonna oppose the moon and Jupiter in your seventh house. So, along with Saturn in your seventh house, you're definitely dealing with a lot of people, a lot of extremes, people that either want to be there or they don't want to be there, or they see your shine or they don't see your shine. They see who you truly are or they don't. So, this second full moon here in your opposing sign is a big one, and especially with Jupiter right there, like you're seeing like I think it's a big emotional let go of like what other people see you as is not who you are. Like you have to realize, as long as you're able to see your heart and see the value that you put out there, especially with Mars and Mercury in your second house coming together, like realizing like you are so worth it, you are so powerful, you are so strong, you are here to light the way, and to not worry so much about everybody else's beliefs, everybody else's emotions on a matter in life that, so what? Like maybe they have a different opinion. Like I think this is where you have to find that middle ground, but still like really own your power, own your worth, and don't stop moving forward. Don't stop, going after the things that you want to instinctually right now identify with. Those are super important. So whatever other people believe or whatever, emotions or, stuff in your personal life even that are dealing with other people that aren't connecting fully, they don't have to be there anymore. Like you can find a middle ground by cutting that off. Like it doesn't have to be in a mean way, but how much energy do you want to put into things that aren't showing you beauty right now, or other people that aren't showing you, or giving you the love and the support that you might want or need? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, because I think with the sun in the first and with the second house energy of Mars and Mercury, it's like I don't think Leo really gives too much of a fuck about what other people are doing. But if you do, this is a good time to emotionally, see the balance with other people, but keep doing what you're doing. Like, don't stop because of other people's beliefs or opinions about you. Especially with Mercury starting off the week with that quincunx to Saturn in your seventh. It's like, you really don't have to you really don't have to put up with other people's, authority. Like you can think you do. You might think you have to put up with what they want, but you actually don't. You just have to understand your capacity and how much you are worth. And if people don't see it, they don't see it. So what? And Uranus is going to go retrograde in your 10th house, which I think is having you, really look at how you want to do society or do career right now. And it's making good aspects to Mars and Mercury. So it could be through this retrograde period and all this stuff that you realize, like, wow, I have some really amazing ideas for my career. I have some really powerful things that I can create. And it could come through some really like aha moments and like big decisions too. And like being able to make a big decision that you're ultimately going to get the value out of that you deserve. So I think it's really finding that inner breakaway power to, if you need to do something different in public, a lot of it comes back to not worrying about what other people in the public think, but using your own really unique insight to create something really powerful. And Venus is going to make, good aspects to the nodes. Venus in your third house is, you're going to want to talk about how great you are. You're going to want to talk about all these things that are showing up and how you feel and what makes you feel good, and have conversation. And I think that conversation with people is important. You have the North Node in your 11th house. So it's not like just cut people off. Like, I think people are important, but again, it comes back to like, are they connecting with you on your frequency? Or are they connecting with the insight and sort of like look into the future that you want to go into? So I think a lot of conversation comes up, but ultimately it's like you don't have to connect to everything. You have to see that everybody's special too with the North Node in your 11th house. But that doesn't mean that it makes sense. So I think with Venus in your third, like you're going to see like what makes sense when it comes to your values and what doesn't, and what's going into the future that you want, and what's showing you where you can make these big decisions, or who's letting you make big decisions, and who's kind of like trying to hold you back. And of course the quincunx energy to Chiron in your 9th house from your second. So it's like not, being scared of the expanse or thinking that, things are just too weird, what you believe in about maybe what the world's going through, or maybe your own visions of what you can create right now. But, just having that confidence to do these things, not feeling wounded, but realizing that I think right now you're starting to realize you have so much wisdom, so much to share, so much to teach, even with Chiron in the 9th house. And it's gone through a lot there with, squares in Cancer season and trines in Leo season. So now you're getting this quincunx energy to it. And I think it's showing you like you can get kind of like down to business and practical about maybe what you want to share with the world or what you want to share with people. But again, if it's not connecting, it's not connecting. And I think that this is a really powerful week where you see what is and what isn't, and people are a big part of that for you. And you don't have to just do what everybody else wants. And you never did. And I think every Leo's like, yeah, I never did. Right. So don't start now, especially if you're not emotionally in it and you're not getting the value you deserve. Queen of Swords. Yeah, you kind of got to be kind of got to be a little cold and just sharp, because I think that you have a lot to build right now, and I think that you have a lot to show and create, and you have a better way forward. But if people don't want to hear it, well, the Queen of Swords isn't going to care. Like, she's just going to cut ties, like disconnect. And it's not a very emotional queen. Like, she's just very smart and direct and to the point. So I think you need to be smart and direct about the life that you want to innovate and build and create right now, and use this assertive sun as it finishes up in your first house to not get lost in the full moon energy with Jupiter in your 7th house about what other people could believe or think about you, but to realize that as long as you believe in how powerful you are within yourself, like, you can cut through anything right now. And that's going to, ultimately show you a lot of confidence, and I think give you a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of just direction. like, I'm going this way. All right, Virgo. Well, you're finishing up the sun in your 12th house. So it's been kind of a surrender time here for you, but it's coming to an end. All the planets are going to be out of that 12th. So you're like definitely getting into this new cycle here. Your ruling planet is going to be with Mars in your first house. I mean, this is like powerfully strong. I mean, you can really come into an understanding about where you're getting this instinctual pull to go, about who and what you want to identify with. And I think it's really like a defining time for Virgos. Like you've kind of gone through this like kind of out there like okay, there's things coming to an end. I can feel like a lot of subconscious energy right now, but now it's just like things are showing up. And they're showing up through your instincts, like I said. So the more that you're feeling that like pull to do something, I think this is where you really want to do it, because I think it could be some sort of like unconscious fear that would be holding you back. And I don't think you want to show that fear. I think you want to like realize your power. The more you realize your power, the more you're going to see amazing things come into play, especially with Uranus going retrograde in your ninth house and trine to that energy. Like you don't have to believe just anything. I think this is where you can liberate yourself by really standing true to your own, you know, radical belief system about yourself. So, you know, you could have been like hyper focused on some things. You're a Virgo. Of course, you're, you know, putting things together all the time and, you know, trying to make things pretty. But I think this Uranus here is like, okay, there's big, insightful beliefs here. Time to act on them. Time to take the necessary steps for the biggest of ones and the most radical of ones. And I think the more that you do things radically and kind of break out and not have any fear about that or any like subconscious like I shouldn't, I don't know, like, but your instincts are pulling you, trust those instincts. And I think that you see things just start to really expand and open up. And we're going to see the quincunxes to Chiron from Mercury. You know, Chiron to me is kind of like a ruler of Virgo. I would say it would co-rule Virgo and Sagittarius. So, you know, and Chiron's in your eighth here. I think, you know, when it comes to maybe merging or intimacy or, you know, trusting other people right now, it's kind of a weird time for you. So I would say instinctually, whatever that inner sort of gut pull is towards, like that's probably really important to pay attention to. There's probably a lot of wisdom in that, and it's cutting through a lot of bullshit. So if you're feeling like people are either lying to you or being secretive, I think you're going to feel it super quick this week. And for whatever reason, that just came up for Virgo. So if you're getting that from anybody, like trust your gut. It's going to know exactly what's true and what's not true and what you're going to want to, you know, define moving forward with that relationship. But kind of a weird aspect with, especially for you with the first and the eighth house, kind of getting to the bottom too of not only the direction you're going, but realizing that deep emotional pull that's trying to help you rise up. And it might feel a little dark, but whatever shows up in the darkness that you do rise up through is going to hold a lot of wisdom for you. Full moon in your sixth house to close off the week. That's you know, 12th, sixth house transits aren't the funnest, and you've had two full moons there, so I know that it's been kind of a subconscious shit show, but I think that this moon and Jupiter in your sixth are, you know, trying to be about maybe a release of stress, realizing that you don't have to connect to everything that is a little chaotic. Like Sun in the 12th can be kind of chaotic. You had Mercury there recently, Mars. I think you're, in a way, kind of starting to see the beauty in the chaos, which is like almost a Virgo's worst nightmare. I feel like that's where Virgos are at right now. That just came up. So this is like realizing that to make things perfect is a constant battle. You don't want to just get emotionally tied up in the stress of it because there's a lot of things with Jupiter in the sixth that need to be like tidied up or changed in your reality. And like either you're a Virgo who loves that or you're a Virgo who's like, I'm tired. If you're tired, take a break. 12th house is, sun's finishing up in your 12th house. Surrender. You know, you don't have to make everything perfect all the time, especially if you're stressed and beat up. And Saturn, there's too, is like, giving you 2.5 years of change your reality, make it more beautiful. And you're like, I just want a break. Ultimately, you're going to see where you don't have to try as hard because of you kind of going to trust, that the universe is going to make the necessary close of what is too stressful and what doesn't have a place in your world any longer. And Venus is in your second house now. So, I mean, that's great for like feeling good about yourself, really building that relationship to self. Like Venus in the second is a great place. Definitely deals with money too. So getting finances straight, getting your values in order, realizing that, if you value something or if you want something of value, well, you can attract that in, but you have to know that you're worth it. You have to know that you're beautiful. You have to know that you're, the shit. And the more you know that you are that, and the more you feel like you're worth that, the more you're going to see come out, especially with Venus trining over to that north node in your 10th house. I think especially if it has to do with like something that feels like it's on your mission right now. If it's on your mission, it's going to pay out. And I think that if it's not on your mission, you might, get a good look at it. And that might be something that's ending is because that's not like that mission isn't working any longer, or what you thought was that, big picture or final destination was either just a stepping stone and you need to go further and reach higher because you're worth more now. So it's almost like an evolution of value within yourself. But it's a good aspect. So I think ultimately you're finding more self-worth and reaching higher because of it. And Venus even gets close to Saturn in the 6th house. So it's like, yeah, like if you want nice things and you're the shit, I think you're going to feel good about doing the work. But if the work's just stressing you out, I think this full moon in this week is where you realize that you don't have to identify with things if they're not giving you the payout and they're not giving you the beauty that you desire, that they're just not worth cleaning up any longer. They're just really meant to be thrown away. Temperance. Beautiful. Yeah, I think that, this can be a time where you're finding a ton of beauty, and especially within yourself. And I think that, maybe you've been really patient and waiting for this. And I think that maybe this week is where you realize that it's not about just cleaning up everything in life, but it's about getting rid of the stuff that doesn't make you happy, that doesn't give you value, that doesn't make you feel like you're the shit, that doesn't make you feel like you're worth the best. Like, I think that this is where you're like, yeah, I am a beautiful divine being on the highest of levels, and I'm surrendering to that so that I can attract in the abundance I desire. Because I think you've been patient, and that's actually can be like kind of hard for Virgos. So maybe this is that week where it's like a little bit of patience and surrender actually goes a long way to show you like the most value and the most beauty that you can ultimately attract into your life. Libra. All right, Libra. Sun in the 11th house. This is definitely dealing with people, right? Like it's been that. It's finishing up here. Dealing with what you want to connect to, where sort of these innovative things can take place in your life, groups. And it's going to be in opposition with all this energy in your 5th house, especially with the sun, opposite Jupiter in your 5th house, opposite the moon for the second time. I don't know. Libra, you got so much going on in your 5th house right now. Like, it's really time for you to show off all the stuff that you love. And I think if you're not seeing that connect with people in life, this is where it's like you got to draw the line. Like, you're going to keep putting your energy into things that don't light you up, Or are you going to like kind of let those things go and just move into the stuff that really is the most beautiful, the most, heart-centered place that you want to be in right now, instead of like feeling disconnected from that heart space with a Aquarius ruled fifth house. Like I think realizing that maybe you love a little bit differently, and maybe it's about really showing that off in your own, unique way, and not worrying so much, like really, like don't worry about what people think. Just show yourself off. Just be true to yourself in the most unique and authentic way. And I think that that's like one of the biggest things that can help this week. Venus is coming into your sign. Like this is really about you owning your identity. Like knowing that you're the shit. Knowing your value. Like the more you identify with how beautiful and amazing you are, the more you're going to attract that energy in. So it's like the more love you show yourself, the more love you're going to see show up with that sun finishing up in your 11th house in the people around you. And if you're not seeing love when it comes to the people around you, well, I think you're realizing, either one, you're not doing what your heart desires, so it's not showing up in your life, and you're not identifying with the right things that are beautiful, or two, that you're doing everything in your power to live in happiness and love and enjoyment, and other people don't want to connect to that, and so what? So what? You'll go find someone else. Venus is going to trine the North Node in your ninth house. Like you're expanding and growing right now. Like the more that you can learn and grow and, see new things and see the vision that can show up in life, and the more that you also like believe in the identity of those beliefs coming true and being a true, real reflection, the more you're going to see it in other people. And Chiron's in your seventh house, and it's making really weird quincunx aspect, of course, to Mars and Mercury in your 12th house. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that you're learning to attract in the beauty by kind of surrendering your own sense of what maybe ego, or maybe your old sense of identity, or groups that you were identifying with, or things that you were identifying with that weren't of the heart. Kind of like learning that you have a lot of creative potential and understanding right now, but it's hard to completely understand where those things are going. So just like let the channel come through you. Like, and that channel is going to show up in like really, hopefully beautiful ways, but it might not. Also, like it could show up in ways that are showing you like really, is that the beautiful story that you want to go into? Is that the vision? Is that the dream? Or is that a nightmare? So hopefully not a nightmare, of course. Uranus in your 8th house is making really good aspects to that. So Uranus going retrograde in your 8th, this could be bringing up things that you really need to let go of, and like knowing that you need to let go of them. So it's stuff that maybe you started over the last 6 months that like, or ideas or ideals or hopes, or even relationships or people, like did they work out? Like, are they coming to an end? So this is kind of a positive look, actually, and like being able to kind of see into unseen places of like, are you really going to identify with that? Is it really bringing the beauty into your life that you're looking for? And does it make any sense? Because Mercury in the 12th, there's not a lot of things that make a whole lot of sense. Like it's really non-linear. It's great for channeling. It's great for art, music, being creative. But like linear logical thinking, not the best place. But I would say Uranus in your 8th is helping because it's giving you a really deep look at that psychology and a deep dive into the bottom line of what you would really want to connect to as an individual, and sort of like your own unique psychology into what is kind of coming to an end. The 12th house is where all things come to an end, right? So I think you're starting to see more of that, especially as the sun moves in next week to your 12th house. Like it's definitely a surrender moment here, and I think even though it's a nice aspect with the trine, like Uranus in your 8th will snatch things away really quick if you're not willing to look at the signs and do what really makes you happy. Because I think the stuff that really lights you up and brings love and joy into your life, like those aren't, necessarily what's going to go unless they're extremely, not making sense on this bigger picture, or bigger journey that you're meant to go on. So there's that. What else do I want to say for you, Libra? I mean, I think you have to dedicate to your heart, especially with the ruling planet getting really close to that trine to Saturn by the end of the week, with the full moon in your fifth house. I feel like there's just like a level of integrity of like really knowing, one, that you're worth it, two, that if you're following your heart and doing things and acting upon the emotions that make you feel good, that it's probably going to make you feel, I mean, for one, good, but like you're growing and expanding and not stagnant, and probably connecting you with the right people and not feeling like people are, you know, a thorn in the side, Chiron in the seventh. Yeah. It's not the easiest of transits here for Libra, I would say. I feel like there's like Libras are about to have something kind of cut out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Strength card reverse. Yeah, I can't help but feel like Libras are just like not taking their own strength and authority serious right now. Especially with all that in your fifth house and a second full moon in your fifth house. Like, I think you need to take matters of what you want to identify with seriously right now. And really stop worrying about anything that's coming from an outside source that doesn't match up with what you desire. And I don't think you want to just like push and push and push in any direction right now that isn't like divine or that isn't making you feel really happy. Because I think that that's part of it too. Like maybe like pushing for something that isn't like the shit, isn't the best, isn't like upgrading your life right now. It's like keeping you stagnant. And I think that you're at a place where you're trying to move into the future and make big changes, but you know, there's a surrender that has to be taken place, like that has to take place, I think. But it's like not just like giving up your identity. It's like a surrender of being like, I'm going to stop identifying with the things that don't bring me happiness and that take my strength away. All right, Scorpio. Sun is going to finish up in your 10th house. I think you're making some, pretty big moves here when it comes to, of course, career, legacy, ambitions, maybe big decisions, responsibilities. We're going to see that full moon with Jupiter, of course, in your 4th house. So, trying to find some sense of middle ground here between home life and work life, putting things out into the public or giving, yourself the attention and nurturing that you need. And with Saturn and Jupiter in your 4th, you know, I'd say that there's a lot of energy dealing with your own emotional state. And do you feel comfortable in your body? Do you feel comfortable about your feelings? Are you just putting on a mask in the 10th house and not like paying attention to these feelings? So this is where you're really getting in touch with that emotion, with that deep feeling within you. And I think you have to realize that you don't have to put yourself out there for anything that you are not, or that you have to suppress things. Like Saturn in the 4th can be kind of trying to like hold emotion down. I think you want to be responsible and have that integrity for your feelings right now. Don't hide your feelings, but like put them out there. Like make big things happen, but make big things happen for what you really, what really matches with something that makes you feel at home, that brings you that security that you need. If you're just doing something in life that doesn't have this rooted foundation, like I feel like this is that full moon, that it's like, okay, that foundation wasn't there. So I'm going to start creating a new one. And Jupiter's going to oppose the sun from your 4th house. It could be a lot of, emotion going on. I think that you want to, be pretty authentic and real Like, don't mask the feelings. If you mask the feelings right now, I don't think you're going to see the reflection from the outer world come through the way that you want it. So, Mars and Mercury, of course, Mars is one of your ruling planets, going to meet with Mercury in your 11th house. Definitely, like, could be looking at a lot of different ways and like having a big epiphany moments of connecting dots and like kind of using that unique insight that you're getting to take, a risk, to take an action in life or what's going to connect you or take you further into the future that you want to create. I think you got to be true and real with your emotions, but at the same time, like, what makes the ultimate sense into the future that you want to go in? And maybe it's just having that courage to go in that direction, especially with the trines to Uranus in your 7th house and with the sun in your 10th. Like, yeah, there's an outer persona, there's a public persona, there's relationships, there's people. Uranus is going to go retrograde in your 7th house. This is really, I think it's great for finding the right connections in life. I think this is a great friendship aspect in general, or even a great, not so much relationship, but like really tribe aspect of like, who do you want to connect to? Who do you not want to connect to? And I think it starts to make a lot more sense, especially if you're not looking like too far ahead with Uranus going retrograde in your 7th. Like, who's going to be my partner for the future, but maybe, with all the stuff and sun in your 10th and Uranus there and coming off those squares, like maybe you are finding that future business partner that's going to help you connect dots and make big things happen. So I think people could be a great asset for you right now. You do have the North Node in your 8th house, so like really like merging with power in life and getting down to that bottom line of what you really want, who you really want it with, could be something very important. Venus in your 12th, kind of sketch though. No, I'm just kidding. Venus in the 12th is all right. It's just dealing with relationships, it's a little weird, but it's extremely creative. It definitely wants to see all the beauty and like really, see the beauty of connecting spiritually or back to source. So maybe you're finding a deep sense of connected security that you actually want to trust, and maybe it's merging with that power that is the ultimate power that brings the most beauty. But I do think that you're finding people that want to connect on the deepest of levels right now, that like, and also if you're not seeing that connection on the deepest of levels or the most insightful of ways, I feel like you're going to be a little bored or a little like not satisfied or feeling like, it's not exciting enough. So I feel like you're looking for a little bit of electricity and excitement when it comes to people. And if you're not getting it, it might not be the dream maybe that you're looking for. But I do think you want to make big things happen. But it comes down to big decisions and big decisions on how you're feeling, especially with Chiron in your 6th house in quincunx to Mars and Mercury this week. Like, you kind of just have to bite the bullet and do the little things in life that are going to take you farther into the future that you want to create. And you do want to tidy those things up, and you do want to be hypercritical and analyze them, but at the same time, you don't want to like hyper analyze things to the point where you just feel like you can't, make things happen because you're too stressed or you're too worried about, you're just being too hard on yourself. So don't be too hard on yourself worrying about maybe what other people are doing. You have a lot of energy in houses with other people right now. So I think a lot of your gift right now is in the work that you want to put in, that's a service work, that's using your wisdom for connecting dots and hooking up with people that want to do that with you. And it could be like through that you find really solid partnerships or friendships right now, or that tribe energy. And yeah. What's the card say? 9 of Cups. Yeah, well, that's great because I think you're finding a lot this week that's going to help you find what you're looking for, and it's going to be deeper emotion, and it's going to have this really like solid sense of fulfillment, like you've found that emotional place that you want to be, that emotional dreamy spot that you want to be at. And like it all kind of came to a culmination of paying off. So I think that, as the sun finishes in your 10th, like you might have really hit a stride with big career goals, and even with the full moon here in your 4th house, like not even just career goals, but realizing like really what you want deep within yourself and letting go of what you don't, so that you can connect to really the future that you want to go into and the big sort of decisions that you had to make along that journey. So I think that ultimately after this week, you feel pretty good about it, judging from that card. So that's dope. I'm losing my voice. I'm gonna have to get better at like these long shows. Saggies. All right, Sag, pretty good time for you. You are having the sun finish up in your 9th house. I feel like that's really good, solid energy for Sages. Like, it's all about what you can expand on and explore right now, and making sure that it has that sort of Leo essence to it too. That like you're growing in ways that make you happy. You're growing in ways that are exciting and fun, and are you learning the things that are making you happy right now? Are you just kind of like playing small? So it's kind of like, how big can you play within your own community, within even what's close to you, with the energy in your 3rd house? So a lot of this stuff is like hyper focused on the here and now and what makes sense in your immediate landscape, while trying to also go on this big vision quest of big things that you can either start or take things to the next level. A full moon with Jupiter, and Jupiter oppose, the sun in your 3rd. I think that you have a lot of big ideals and lofty, beliefs that have to be kind of narrowed down, that your emotions kind of have to be narrowed down too, so that you can really make sense of them. And, I think really like express how you're feeling too. And like, it's kind of like taking all these big insights and all this big wisdom that you might have acquired. And I think learning how to emotionally express them and how to emotionally communicate that big energy. And maybe like realizing maybe old ideas or old information kind of like changed. So like learning to adapt to new situations and not just like hold on to an emotion from the past. Is the second full moon in your 3rd house. So I think a lot of it is like really like an emotional understanding that things are changing in your immediate life. And that if you really want to go on the quest and on the vision, you have to, make those changes that are right in front of you first. And it might start with just the kind of things that you're feeling in your personal life, or, things you got to get off your chest and express. So I think it's a big, week for communicating where that vision's going to go. Mars and Mercury are going to meet up in your 10th house. So, I mean, Mars is definitely giving you a lot of can do, like a lot of oomph here. And with Mercury, I think too, it make that expression. So I would say Sages are probably going to be pretty loud this week, like especially for things that they really want. Like if they really want to dedicate, or if they really want to reach higher or go farther, they're going to make whatever changes they have to do. Like you're going to make those changes in your immediate life to make that happen, and to, express and to speak up. I feel like Mars, if you're a Sag and you have like a big business meeting this week, Mars and Mercury in the 10th is like you're going to crush that board meeting. And it's trine Uranus. So whatever you have to say is going to be, pretty impactful. Like, I feel like it's going to have a lot of channeled insight, but it's also going to be very practical and very grounded, and it's going to make a lot of sense. So I feel like there's a lot about the quest, there's a lot about this vision, this big ideal, but a lot of it is like super practical, but smart, communication that's going to come out. So I think Sagittarius are in a powerful place right now, big time. Also with Venus coming into the 11th house, like it's going to be easy to see like the reflection in people and in the groups that you want to be around. And it'll also be easy to kind of like disconnect. So like you're going to be like in it or not in it. And especially with that good aspect to the North Node in your 7th house, like, are you in the good relationship that's showing up and beautiful? Do you get the freedom that you're looking for? Or do you feel like a little bit trapped? Or the extremes too much? I think that gets, it gets a focus put on it, but you're going to know this week, like, is that built for the long term? Is that the connection that's what I truly want with people, friends, groups, or relationships? It'll be pretty clear, and everything's going to be pretty practical. I think Sages are in a great place to communicate um, and get things off their chest. Chiron in the 5th, quincunx, um, Mercury and Mars in the 10th is like, the only thing that would hold you back from, taking over the world right now. No, I'm just kidding. But like big goals and like things that you need to, make happen, or changes in your own, physical right here, right now landscape, and the way you express that would be that, you're not feeling like confident enough, or that you're not feeling like special enough. So I think really realizing how special you are and not feeling like some weirdo because of these big ideals or visions that you have, um, like you're gonna have a lot of empowerment. And I think that a lot of aspects are playing out in your favor here right now. So yeah, the more that you don't think that you can't do the stuff that makes you happy, and you believe in the happiness and the excitement, and that the connections can have that, the relationships can have that, the friendships, all of that, and you're willing to speak up for those things, like I think that this is a pretty powerful week for the Sages. The Hangman reversed. So yeah, like I don't think you need any other perspectives. I don't think you need to feel stuck or hang around anymore. Like this is kind of a big, let's go. Let's get out of the tree. Let's make big things happen. Let's go have that board meeting. Let's go have that big talk. Let's make a change in the environment that's right around me right now, because I have a bigger understanding and I know what's I really want to connect to. I know what the people are, the relationships. Like go out and make it happen. Just believe in your heart, if anything, right now, and that space will illuminate the way. Sag, Cappies. All right, Capricorn. Got the sun finishing up in your 8th house. It's been a transformational time for sure. Could have been a deep dive, but I think this is a big time rising up like the Phoenix energy, especially with Mars and Mercury crossing over into your 9th house and meeting up. Sun finishing up there. Oh, you know what? Yeah, sorry. Sun meeting up there, getting right on that cusp, very end of the week, coming into that 9th house. Like, you're really finding out where you have that emotional power within you. I think you're learning who you want to trust in life and who you don't, where the good mergers are, where they're not. Full moon in the 2nd for the 2nd time. I mean, this is the soul capital axis too. So not only are you rising up, but I think you're really finding out that you can create a lot. That if you release some sense of lack of self-worth, or some emotional thing that's like you've been holding on to, or just doing things over and over again, but you're not seeing the bigger picture, or seeing like where you can make a change because you have the capacity to make it. Like this is the final, like you're going to make the change that you need. Whatever it is, it's going to bring you the abundance. But you know that there's a deep rooted change, and you're trying to find the middle ground between, is it just me? Is it another person? Is it something else? Ultimately, with that moon, Jupiter, and Saturn in your 2nd house, it's like you have to realize again, you're beautiful, you're worth it, you're powerful, you're strong, you can manifest, you can create, but you have to believe it yourself. And I think this is like, especially with Jupiter there, like getting rid of any sort of self-doubt that isn't making you feel powerful, that isn't making you feel like you deserve the best, that you're, connecting with energy and merging with energy that wants to give you the return on investment. So this is like a big upgrade, I think, for Capricorn soul capital, so that you can really expand. Like Mars and Mercury in your 9th house, like you have a ton of visions. You're being able to channel in different ways that maybe you're not used to right now, and see the bigger picture. And it's like, can you express that bigger picture? You do have Neptune in your 3rd house. Like, can you logically express the bigger picture in life right now? And I think that that's a good question, because you have a ton of like drive to go out and make these big changes, because I think that you found a lot of inner authority, and this is that final week of like releasing any self-doubt emotionally, or any, self-detrimental beliefs, so that it's a big rise up week. And it's like, are you willing to understand that and not just get like lost in the vision, but let's act on the vision. Let's speak about the vision. Let's tell the vision. Let's do the vision, with Mars there and with the sun meeting up with Regulus by the end of the week in your ninth house too. So you can make a lot of big things happen right now, but you have to know your worth, your value, and you can't you can't settle for less. And I think this is like where you could have been holding on to something that wasn't giving you the payout, and you have to be willing to let go of that. Like, yes, keep the things that are paying out, keep the things that are valuable, but again, sun in your eighth, there's certain things that you don't need to obsess over. And those are the ones that aren't giving you the goodness and that second house and that abundance that you're looking for. Venus comes into your 10th house. So you're looking at relationships. You're looking at sorry, I need a sip of water. Looking at manifesting, of course, but also, relationships. And I think dealing with relationships and money aspects that are going to be long-term things. So if you weren't getting that payout or seeing the abundance you're looking for, I think Venus now in your 10th house is like, okay, this isn't a reliable thing, this isn't going to show up, this isn't working out. And then getting really grounded and real about what will, and doing those things and taking responsibility for where the love can show up, for where the abundance can show up. And again, not settling for less. So if you've been getting less, let go of the less. Time to take more. And I think that this is a big week where that comes into play even more. And with Uranus in your 5th house, it's really trying to show you new ways to open up and have a good time. And it's going to go retrograde. So it's just got to be more unique and more yourself than ever before. And I think that this is a great week for that, with the trines to your 9th house. Your heart will show you exactly where you can open up the next door, exactly where that vision can go, exactly how much, if you believe in yourself and are willing to put in that work and willing to show up and be reliable. North node in your 6th house, trine that Venus. If you can show up every day and be reliable for the things that you want to bring into this creation, for the things that you want to have, you need to let go of the things that are stressing you out, that suck, and do the things that make you happy, and do the things that look like they're going to have long-term big vision payout, that I think has to come from the heart space, that has to light you up. And if it does, bingo, boom, the trifecta. And you do have Chiron in Aries, quincunx with that Mercury and Mars. So you just can't have some sense of not feeling good enough, I think, deep within yourself, or feeling like some weirdo on the inside, and be able to make changes to the vision and realize how the shit you are and how worth it you are. And if you realize those things, everything's going to open up, and you're going to realize that so much of your wisdom is stored in your emotions and how you feel about yourself. And that it's a long Chiron transit in Aries. So the more Capricorns find their vulnerability to feel right now, the more that the expanse is going to come. So got to go into those feelings, got to feel them. You're not weird. It's where so much of your gift lies right now. So, and I would say too, with the sun in your 8th, in this full moon, you got to be vulnerable. You got to trust in yourself deep within, and other people that are showing up that are reliable right now. And I think that it's a good time for relationships. For Capricorns, they could find really reliable, real things to show up in their life right now, if they're going towards the bigger mission, if they're expanding and believing that they're worth the great things. Because if a Capricorn doesn't believe that they're worth the great things right now, they're not going to feel like anything's expanding, and they're going to feel like Saturn in the 2nd house is making them feel like some ugly duckling that doesn't deserve anything. And that's not a Capricorn. Time to be the boss again. The Hierophant. Yeah, I feel like this is a new tradition that you're starting, of legitimately believing in how much power you have, believing in how much abundance you can create by stepping into that authority within yourself, realizing that if you're going to be the boss, you got to know that you're worth it. You got to achieve, set high goals, and not just do any little thing, but like do the real stuff and like believe in yourself and not feel like a weirdo emotionally. Own your vulnerabilities, own your feelings, and that's where so much expanse can come up as well. But I think you got to get serious too about yourself and all the great things you can create and not hold yourself back anymore. It's probably, honestly, because you're not willing to feel. So if you're willing to go into those feelings, yeah, it's time to like rewrite the rule book, I think, for yourself. All right. Aquarius. Aquarius. Sun in the 7th house in Leo. You have a full moon in your sign for the second time. That's a lot. That's definitely dealing with a lot of identity, a lot of your emotional, sense of drive right now. And kind of like what really makes you feel like you. And I think that this is where Aquariuses are like going through a crazy shitstorm of like, who am I? Like, this is kind of like that moment, I think, of like really kind of having a really good idea of that, especially with Jupiter, like in your first house. Like, you can bring in a lot of abundance and a lot of gifts if you're willing to identify with the belief. And it's like, you don't have to believe you're just one thing. Like, I think the more you believe in all the things that you are, and like all these like great things and qualities that you have, like, that's when you're going to be able to put it out there. And it's like, stop just maybe even keeping things so like one-sided, like I'm just this. No, you're more than that. Saturn's there like, no. Oh, I didn't have the chart on. Saturn's there like, no, like, this is going to take a long time to find yourself. Like, it's not. But you can be all sorts of things. And I think that that's a big part of this is like, yes, the sun's finishing up in your 7th house and it's dealing with other people in your life. But at the same time, there's a lot of energy in that first house. And I just feel like you have to like own up to all the things that you are, especially if they really match up with what you want. And you have the North Node in your 5th house. You got Venus in your 9th now. Like, you can expand and have so much fun with things, especially if they bring you love. And I don't think you have to be just so like one-sided, like, or what one person thinks or what other people think. Like, oh, you just believe in this, you're only this. Like, no, I'm not. I'm all things, because in a way, Aquariuses are learning how to like really use that Leo energy, their opposite sign, with the sun in Leo and that North Node in the 5th and Mercury and Mars. I think there's a big transformation of identity, but it's that identity of like really, I don't know, it's big. I'm trying to get this one in because I feel like it's big right now for Aquariuses. 2 new moons. I'm sorry, 2 full moons. Like, this is like not just an ordinary time for you. Like, I think that you're really learning how to be truly, authentically yourself and rebellious and not taking any shit from other people. Finding tribe only. Finding people that really want to explore the new world with you. Explore what love really is with you, and to explore and to see all these big ideals and visions that you do have, and all these different identities that you can be and that you are, instead of just you're this and blah blah blah. Like, no, I'm the shit. I feel like a lot of these last signs are like just knowing they're the shit right now. There's a lot going on in these signs. So not only are you trying to like deep dive into this deep psychology and this deep understanding of yourself and other people, and I think looking for the things that you really want to get intimate with and like penetrating deeper below the surface, but it's dealing with Uranus in your 4th house that's going to go retrograde and trines to that. Like, the deeper you go into your heart, the more you're going to rise up with power. The deeper you go into your feelings, the more that you realize that you're very unique, and it's that uniqueness that's the expanse that's going to open up, that's going to show the beauty. That is super powerful right now. And then there's Chiron in your 3rd, making the quincunx to Mercury and Mars. Like, you can think you're crazy. Maybe Aquariuses out there think they're too crazy right now because they're channeling too far ahead, because they're so far ahead of the game, but they're forgetting that they need to express themselves and to not be like a recluse about it. Like I feel like Aquariuses are gonna change the world, but they have to realize that they're special right now with that north node in the fifth house, and use that special, energy and destiny to feel the emotion, to realize that they're not weird for feeling it, to rise up with the power from that deep well within them, and to penetrate all things that are not of what you want to identify with right now, so that you know what you want to identify with. So, this is a big week. I think that it's just not about taking shit from people. Like, you gotta do your own thing. The more you create from your heart, the more you do what brings you happiness, the more you express yourself and not think you're crazy, like, that's going to show you where you can rise up with a lot of power and a lot of strength. And yeah, you're coming into a transformative time. Another one. But it's good because this is where I think you're going to really transform into like the ultimate versions of yourself that are going to change the world. 5 of Cups reversed. Yeah, that's good. This is a time to get out of apathy, to get out of feeling like the victim in life. Like, you need to realize how fucking cool you are. Aquarius isn't the coolest sign in the zodiac for no reason. But if you're not going to go out and show the world all the coolness and all the self-expression that you have, and you're going to hold yourself back and just like get in line and not be a rebel, then I don't think you're going to feel like an Aquarius, and I think you're going to feel like you're completely holding yourself back for something that, like somebody else wanted you to do? No. This is a good week because it's whatever was making you feel a little bit less than in life, like it's done. That transformation's taking place because you found it, you penetrated it, and now you're going to act upon it and speak upon it too. All right. Finish up with Pisces. All right, Pisces. You got a full moon in your 12th house with Jupiter back in your 12th house. So, a lot of this is about a surrender. A lot of this is about things are coming to an end. Maybe emotions, maybe things that you've really like wanted to connect to or have been connecting to for a long time. It's the second full moon in this 12th house. Like, you're really seeing what isn't part of reality any longer, what beliefs don't fit. There's just a lot of energy coming at you right now. But you have the Jupiter there. There is an angel on the shoulder. Whatever's like showing up that needs to end, you just have to trust and surrender that whatever doesn't belong anymore doesn't belong. It doesn't fit into reality. And this is where you're trying to find that balance of what's real, what's not real. And you don't want to like over stress about it, but you do want to make those changes. Like, you do want to illuminate the parts of reality that are beautiful, that make the most sense, that you want to make these changes for. And, really get over something that's just holding you back, even if it's just subconscious. Like, just being like, no, this is not going to work. So it's like if the universe keeps showing you where the door's locked or where something's not working, are you really going to keep trying to like open this locked door that's not going to budge? And I think that's the best way to look at it, because the key is in your hand, but the key doesn't fit in the door. So why don't you go find another door, or just give up on that door until the door magically that key fits in shows up in front of you, and it likely will. But I think this is a big emotional surrender. Instead of freaking out or being stressed out at the chaotic world, like really surrendering and not holding on to a lot, but being vulnerable and making the necessary changes in your reality that will ultimately make you feel better. Especially with your ruling planet in the 12th, and your ruling planet in the 1st. You kind of just have to surrender right now. All right, Mercury and Mars are going to meet in your 7th house. That's a big understanding, I think, of like a desire to meet people, a desire to connect with people, maybe start relationships, um, maybe see which one, where, to find balance, act accordingly, speak accordingly. If you're not seeing the balance with other people, well, speak up for it. Kind of be that mediator in life. Show up for yourself, show up for what you believe in, but also be willing to, I don't know, kind of like find the middle ground when it comes to relationships instead of just like forcing maybe your idea or having other things forced on you. Like, kind of find the middle ground. Also, that's going to make the nice aspects to Uranus retrograde in your third house. I think a lot of it is about, if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, or if you're dealing with people right now and you're not seeing the beauty you want, like, you got to do something about it. You got to speak up. You got to use your, insight into the stuff that's shown up in your world and speak your truth. And I think the more you authentically give that truth and, not be afraid to speak up for it, the better that's going to go. Venus is going to come into your eighth house. So I think, relationships, or, they're going to find, like, this week, like, are you getting the merge that you want with the people that you've committed to? Is it showing up fully? Are you getting that return on investment? And if you're not, you're going to know it. And are you going to be willing to let go of it? That's why Venus doesn't really like the eighth house, because it'll hold on to things even if they're not comfortable any longer. It just doesn't want to let go. It's like, no, I already built this. I put the time and the energy into it. But, Mars and Mercury in your seventh house are like, are you sure this is what you desire? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense with the trine to Uranus. Or it makes all the sense in the world. And, like, this is where, you're seeing that deep, passionate, love. And so it kind of goes both ways with Pisces right now. Because if it's not there, you're kind of having to mediate for yourself for where that balance is, while also letting go of something if it's not the best. So Chiron making the quincunx to that energy in your seventh house is, if you're not feeling top notch, like really worth it, then you're not going to get that reflection, and you're going to be holding on to something that's less than great, that's less than the ultimate. So the more you find that vulnerability and that love of self and that relationship and that strong relationship to self and the capacity to build for yourself and surrender if things aren't working out with people without just like fighting or, just getting into arguments all the time about pointless things when a change needs to be made. Like, know your value, and you will see the benefit of whatever it is, whether it's giving you what you want to see or what you don't want to see. It's going to show up in the right way. But you have to be willing to let go of something if you're not getting that ultimate return on investment. And we're seeing, of course, Venus make that trine over to the North Node this week in your fourth house. Like, you're really trying to get the foundation set right now. And if you're giving yourself to energy that doesn't fit into what you want in your home life or what makes you feel secure, and you're just maybe focusing on this outer persona of what the world sees you as, but you're not focusing on your inner world, like, I don't know. I feel like you're at this point, Pisces, where you're at such a surrender moment with so much in your 12th house, 2 full moons in your 12th, and a Venus and a bunch of energy coming into your 8th house, where if you're not willing to make a change for what's going to make you feel the best in life, the universe is going to make it for you. And, are you willing to surrender to what's showing up and where the universe is pointing you and where these big signs are showing up? Or are you going to wait for the cataclysm to show up? Justice reversed. Yeah, well, I would say that's pretty fitting. Like, if you want justice, you got to take justice for yourself. But you have to know your worth. You have to know your value. You have to let go of things that aren't showing up. Like, be the judge, be the jury for the great things that you can accomplish in your life right now. And I would say stop letting other people dictate the direction that you should go, or like what things need to look like, or what needs to be perfect and what doesn't need to be perfect, you know? So really trust your gut right now. I feel like whatever your gut's telling you and your intuition's telling you, follow that 100% and you're going to see the justice you're looking for. But I think if you're just going to fight for like these big accomplishments, big dreams, big goals without getting that inner world locked up and really feeling into yourself, like you might not see the justice you're looking for when all it was a surrender to something instead of waiting for the justice to be served for you in a way that maybe you wouldn't find comfortable. Oh man, that's a lot of talking. How long did we go for here? 2 hours and 15 minutes. Hmm. Well, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this. There's such a lag because I had the latency normal, so it's like I can't really hang out in the chat. But I do appreciate you all so much for joining. I'm looking forward to doing more lives. Probably get less clunky as I go and be able to express myself better, just straight one after another. Um, Anyways, leave some comments if you want. Let me know if you enjoyed the lives. Definitely looking, forward to trying to do them more. So this was kind of like that first full-on go. So I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a beautiful week. I'm sending you all my love and my best. And thank you so much for being here with me. It truly does mean the world to me. And I will catch you next time. Peace. Oh, yeah, it's live. So I got to get this part down too. You know, it's a learning experience, okay? Peace.